I didn't believe in the devil. Not really. I believed in bad people, bad luck, bad decisions, but not some red-skinned thing with horns waiting at crossroads. That kind of belief felt childish, convenient, something people used to avoid responsibility. That changed on a highway I'd driven my entire life. It was just after 2 a.m. when I left the city, rain streaking across my windshield in thin, restless lines. The sky was pitch black. No moon, no stars. Just clouds hanging low enough to feel heavy. My phone was already dying, screen dimmed to conserve power. GPS shut off because I didn't need it. I knew this road. 2 lanes, long stretches of nothing. A place you could drive for miles without seeing another car if you timed it right. And that night, I had timed it perfectly. The engine hummed steady, tires whispering against wet asphalt. The yellow lines slid beneath my headlights in a hypnotic rhythm. I let my mind drift, replaying things I didn't want to think about. Conversations I'd avoided, promises I'd half kept, choices I told myself didn't matter. That's when I noticed the car behind me. Its headlights were different. Not white, not sharp. They glowed a dull old yellow, like something from another decade. They sat low and wide, keeping a respectful distance that somehow felt intentional. I checked my rearview mirror. Still there. I sped up a little. The headlights did the same. I slowed down. They matched it perfectly. That's when unease crept in. Not panic, not fear yet, just the quiet realization that someone was paying very close attention to me. Rain began to fall harder, thickening into sheets. The world outside the car blurred, shrinking into a tunnel of light and shadow. My wipers worked overtime, squealing faintly with each pass. The radio crackled. I hadn't touched it. A deep, smooth voice filled the cabin, warm and calm, like it had always been there. Long night to be driving alone. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The car drifted slightly before I corrected it. "What the hell?" I muttered. I reached for the radio knob, but it didn't respond. The voice continued, unbothered. "Don't worry. I won't distract you. I know how dangerous that can be." "Who is this?" I said, my voice sounding thinner than I expected. There was a soft chuckle, rich and amused. "Someone going the same direction." I glanced back at the mirror. The headlights were closer now. Too close. "I don't want any trouble," I said. "If this is some joke—" "You don't believe in me," the voice interrupted gently. My stomach dropped. The road ahead began to curve, sharper than it ever had before. Trees pressed in from both sides, their branches arching overhead like ribs closing around me. The pavement darkened, cracked in places I didn't remember. "I believe in consequences," I said. "That's it." Another chuckle. "Most people do. That's how I get them to listen." The air inside the car grew warmer, not comforting warm, stale, suffocating. The faint smell of sulfur crept in, mixed with wet rubber and overheated brakes. "Why me?" I asked. There was a pause. "Because you've been negotiating with yourself for years," the voice replied. "I just came to finalize things." A road sign emerged through the rain. "Last exit. No services." I'd never seen that sign before. "I don't make deals," I said quickly. "I never asked for anything." "Oh, you did," the voice said softly. "You just didn't say it out loud." The headlights behind me shifted. Red, not bright, deep, ember red, like something glowing from within. They flooded my mirrors, painting the inside of my car in warning light. I pressed the accelerator, heart pounding, but the speedometer needle dropped instead of rising. The engine coughed. "No," I whispered. "Relax," the voice said. I always take the long way. Gives people time to remember. The road ahead simply ended. No barrier, no guardrail, just blackness. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop inches from the edge. The rain stopped instantly like it had never existed. The engine died. Silence poured in so thick it felt physical. Behind me, the other car stopped. Its door opened. Footsteps approached. Slow, deliberate, crunching on gravel that hadn't been there seconds before. A shadow stretched across my hood, tall and distorted, bending in ways shadows shouldn't. I kept my eyes forward. "You know," the voice said, now coming from right beside me. "Everyone expects fire. Screaming, chains." A knuckle tapped against my window. Gentle. But hell doesn't need any of that. Hell is just the moment you realize there's no road back. The window fogged from the outside in. A reflection appeared in the glass. Not horns, not flames, just a man in the passenger seat. Well-dressed, calm, smiling like an old friend who'd been patient for far too long. "Well," he said pleasantly, fastening an invisible seatbelt. "Ready to keep driving?" I woke up at sunrise. The car was parked on the shoulder of a familiar road. Birds chirped, the pavement was dry. My phone showed no missed calls, no location history between 2:11 a.m. and 6:03 a.m. I drove home without stopping, but sometimes late at night, when the rain comes down just right, I feel someone sit beside me, and the road stretches longer than it ever should. I drive better at night. That's what I tell myself anyway. Less traffic, less noise, less of everything that makes the world feel crowded. The highway feels like it belongs to me after midnight, especially when the rain starts coming down hard enough to blur the edges of reality. That night, the rain had been falling since sunset. Steady, patient, like it had nowhere else to be. I left the gas station just before 1:30 a.m., coffee lukewarm, headlights cutting through mist that clung low to the road. My GPS said I had 47 minutes left until home. Same route I'd driven dozens of times. A straight stretch of highway, a county road, then the long curve past the trees. Nothing unusual, at least not at first. 10 minutes in, the radio began to crackle. Not static, more like breathing, soft, uneven. I reached to change the station, but the dial spun freely, skipping past frequencies without landing on anything. Every channel sounded the same. Rain, wind, that low, wet breathing sound underneath it all. I turned the radio off. That's when I noticed the mile marker. Mile septendismit septini. I passed it without thinking. The rain intensified, drumming harder on the roof, the wipers struggling to keep up. A few minutes later, I saw it again. Mile septendismit septini. Same sign. Same dent near the bottom. Same faint reflectors blinking back at me. I slowed down. That wasn't possible. I checked the dashboard clock. 1:47 a.m., still moving, still driving. The GPS hadn't recalculated or rerouted. The road was straight, familiar. Dark trees on both sides, stretching back like a tunnel. I told myself it was fatigue, long day, too much caffeine, too little sleep. Then I saw it a third time. Mile septendismit septini. This time my stomach dropped. I pulled over. The rain softened as soon as the car stopped, like it had been waiting for me to notice. The engine idled, low and uneasy. When I opened the door, the air smelled wrong, metallic like wet pennies and old leaves. The forest beside the road was silent. No insects, no wind, no movement. I stood there for a moment, staring down the empty highway. No headlights in either direction. No sound but my own breathing. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, careful. Somewhere behind me. I turned around, heart hammering. Nothing. Just trees. Darkness piled on darkness. I got back in the car and locked the doors. As soon as I pulled back onto the road, the rain returned at full force, like it was annoyed I'd stopped paying attention. I drove faster this time, too fast. My hand shook on the wheel. That's when the headlights caught something ahead. A person, standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, tires skidding, heart climbing into my throat. The car stopped just short of them. They didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't move. They were facing away from me, tall, thin, soaked by the rain, clothes clinging unnaturally close to their body. Their head was tilted slightly to the side, like they were listening to something I couldn't hear. I rolled the window down an inch. "Hey!" I called, my voice sounding small. "Are you okay?" They didn't turn. The rain fell straight through them. I really realized that the person wasn't casting a shadow. Not on the road, not in the headlights. My chest tightened. The figure's head began to rotate. Slowly, too slowly. Like it wasn't meant to move that way. I didn't wait to see the face. I floored it. The car lurched forward, passing straight through where they'd been standing. There was no impact, no resistance, just a sudden crushing cold that swept through the cabin, like something had passed through me instead. The windshield fogged instantly. My breath came out in white clouds. The GPS screen flickered, recalculating. Then the road curved sharply to the right, far sharper than it ever had before. I swerved, barely staying on the asphalt. Trees pressed in closer, their branches arching overhead, blotting out the sky. Another mile marker passed. Mile septendesmit septini. I screamed. The road narrowed. The rain sounded heavier, louder, like it was falling inside the car now. The radio turned itself back on. The breathing returned. But this time, it wasn't alone. There were voices underneath it, whispering, layered, overlapping, saying the same thing again and again. "You missed it. You turned too late. You should have stopped." My headlights began catching shapes on the sides of the road, figures standing just beyond the trees, dozens of them, all facing the road, all still, watching. Every time the lightning flashed, I saw them more clearly. People in soaked clothes, torn jackets, bare feet on wet leaves, faces blurred like they'd been smeared across the dark. None of them blinked. The road ended without warning. No sign, no barrier, just blackness. I slammed the brakes again, skidding to a stop, inches from where the asphalt dropped away into nothing. The rain stopped instantly. The engine died. Silence flooded in. Then the figures began to move. They stepped out from the trees, slow and synchronized, surrounding the car. Their footsteps made no sound. Their faces were clearer now, eyes too wide, mouths slack, expressions frozen between fear and realization. One of them pressed a hand against my window. Another leaned close to the windshield. Their lips moved. This is where we realized. This is where it ended. The radio clicked once. A new voice came through, clear, calm, unmistakably human. "Driver," it said gently, "you've reached the end of the road." I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "I just want to go home." There was a pause. Then the voice replied almost kindly, "So did we." The headlights flickered. The mile marker behind them reflected once more. Mile septindesmit septini. I don't remember how I got home. I woke up in my driveway just before dawn. Engine cold, rain gone, birds chirping like nothing had ever happened. My GPS history showed a straight, uninterrupted drive. No detours, no stops. But sometimes, when I drive at night and the rain starts falling hard enough, my radio crackles, and for just a second, I hear breathing. The rain didn't start all at once. It crept in quietly, almost politely, tapping against the windshield like it was asking permission. At first, I barely noticed it. The road ahead was empty, the kind of empty that only exists late at night, when even the world itself seems half asleep. It was after midnight. I remember that clearly because the dashboard clock had just flipped over when I passed the last gas station for miles. The sign flickered behind me in my rearview mirror, its buzzing neon light shrinking until it disappeared completely. That should have been my warning. The highway was long, flat, and boring, exactly how I liked it at night, but my GPS chimed softly, rerouting me. Faster route available, it said. I hesitated. The blue line curved off onto a smaller road, one without a name I recognized. I told myself it was fine. Technology knew better than I did. And honestly, I just wanted to get home. The moment I turned off the highway, the rain intensified. It wasn't gentle anymore. It came down hard and fast, streaking diagonally across the windshield, blurring the road until it felt like I was driving through a tunnel of moving water. I turned the wipers up to their highest setting, but they barely kept up, smearing rain more than clearing it. Trees lined both sides of the road, thick, dark, and tall. No houses, no mailboxes, no signs of life at all. Just endless forest pressing in around the narrow strip of asphalt. The farther I drove, the more closed in everything felt, like the road was shrinking. I tried to distract myself by turning on the radio. At first it was just static. Low, uneven crackling that rose and fell with the storm. I twisted the knob slowly, scanning for music. Anything to remind me I wasn't completely alone out here. That's when the static shifted. It thinned out, almost clearing, and for just a moment I thought I'd found a station. Instead, I heard something else. Breathing, slow, heavy, close. I froze, my hand still on the volume knob. The sound wasn't distorted like a radio broadcast should be. It sounded real, like someone was breathing directly into my ear. I shut the radio off. The sudden silence felt wrong, like the world had stopped listening. That was when I noticed the headlights behind me. They were faint at first, barely visible through the rain. 2 yellow dots floating far back on the road. I frowned, trying to remember the last time I'd passed another car. I couldn't. Still, I told myself it was nothing. Late-night drivers exist. People heading home from long shifts. Someone else following the same, faster route. I kept driving. A few minutes passed. The headlights were still there. Same distance, same position. Not gaining, not falling back. I sped up slightly. So did they. My stomach tightened. I slowed down, pretending to let them pass. They stayed exactly where they were. The rain grew louder, pounding against the roof like thousands of tiny fists. Wind pushed at the car, making it sway gently in its lane. The trees leaned inward as the road curved, their branches whipping and creaking, silhouetted against flashes of distant lightning. Then the road dipped sharply downhill. My headlights swept forward and illuminated something standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires screaming as I fought the wheel. My heart leapt into my throat as the vehicle slid sideways before finally stopping, just feet away from a man. He stood perfectly still in the rain, head bowed, arms hanging loose at his sides. Water poured off him, soaking his clothes until they clung unnaturally to his body. He hadn't reacted at all. No flinch, no step back, just standing there like he'd been waiting. I glanced at my rearview mirror. The headlights behind me were gone. The road was empty. My pulse hammered in my ears as I rolled the window down just enough to speak. Cold rain sprayed inside instantly. "Hey," I called, my voice shaky. "Are you okay?" No response. He didn't move. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating his face, or what little I could see of it. Pale. Too pale. His features looked wrong somehow, like shadows didn't sit on them the way they should. "I can call for help," I said, reaching for my phone. The man slowly raised his head. He was smiling, not a friendly smile, not a relieved one. It was stretched wide, pulling at the corners of his mouth like his skin didn't fit properly. His eyes reflected my headlights, glowing faintly, completely empty. "Can you give me a ride?" he asked. His voice was calm, pleasant, almost rehearsed. Every nerve in my body screamed. I don't think that's a good idea," I said. Rainwater streamed down his face, but he didn't blink. "You're already stopped," he said, "and it's a long walk." I locked the doors. The sound echoed loudly inside the car. His smile vanished. For a moment, his face went completely blank. Then, his jaw shifted, lowering just a little too far, like something inside his mouth was pushing outward. "I don't like walking in the rain," he said again, his voice deeper now. He took a step forward. I floored the gas. The car surged ahead, spraying water as I sped past him. I didn't look at him as I passed. I couldn't. The road twisted sharply, and I focused entirely on keeping control as the trees blurred into streaks of darkness. My heart didn't slow down. If anything, it beat faster. That's when I heard it. 3 slow knocks from the backseat window. I nearly lost control of the car. "There's no one there," I whispered aloud, my voice trembling. "There's no one there." Another knock, this time from directly behind my head, like someone leaning in close. The rain followed me all the way home. The knocking followed too, sometimes soft, sometimes loud, sometimes right next to my ear, breathing warm against my skin. When I finally pulled into my driveway, the rain stopped instantly. Dead silence. I sat there for a long time before stepping out. The back seat was empty, but the next morning, when I opened my trunk, muddy handprints were pressed against the inside, like something had been with me the entire drive.